They found the girl in the woods just before sunrise, barefoot, half frozen, and covered in someone else's blood. She couldn't remember her name, only that something terrible had happened. When they ran her fingerprints, they discovered she was reported dead 4 years ago, and her body had already been buried. Deputy Claire Monroe had seen a lot during her 10 years, patrolling the quiet border of Oregon and Northern California, but nothing prepared her for the girl who stumbled out of the pines that morning. Claire had just finished her coffee and was warming her hands on the patrol car's hood when the figure appeared slipping through the mist like something pulled from a nightmare. The girl was maybe 17, pale, eyes wide as if the forest still held her captive. Her skin was raw from the cold, her hospital gown clinging to her like wet paper. Claire rushed forward, draping her jacket over the girl's shaking shoulders. "Honey, what happened to you?" The girl didn't speak, not at first. She looked at Claire like she was looking through her, scanning for something just out of reach. "There. Still in there," she whispered. "I think I killed one of them." It wasn't until Claire saw the streaks of blood, thick, dark, still tacky on the girl's bare arms, that she called for backup. At the hospital in Crescent Ridge, the girl refused food, refused questions, refused to sleep. She curled into herself like a frightened animal. But what worried the doctors most wasn't her behavior, it was her identity. When they fingerprinted her, the results came back in less than an hour. Her name was Sadie Whitlock. Age at disappearance, 13. Last seen in Fresno, California. Declared dead in absentia after her bloodied backpack was found beside the San Joaquin River. Her mother had held a funeral. There was a grave with her name etched in stone, but the girl in the hospital bed matched every detail of the missing poster. The mole above her left collarbone, the scar on her right knee, the slight misalignment of her front teeth. No doubt remained Sadie Whitlock was alive, and somehow she had returned from the dead. Claire watched her from behind the glass, disturbed by the way Sadie stared at her own reflection, not with recognition, but with confusion, as if she wasn't sure if what she was looking at was real. The sheriff's office sent for Sadie's mother, Ruth Whitlock, who hadn't spoken to the press in years. When she arrived, she looked more like a ghost than her daughter did. She approached the glass and stared at the girl lying motionless on the bed. "That's not my daughter," she said. Claire blinked. "But ma'am, her fingerprints, her DNA." Ruth's face hardened. "I don't care what your tests say. My daughter is dead. I buried her." She turned to leave, but not before whispering one more thing under her breath, just loud enough for Claire to hear. "And if that girl's really Sadie, then God help us all." Sadie wasn't sleeping. Nurses noted it in the overnight logs. 0 REM, no visible rest. She lay awake, eyes open, body still, as if she feared what might crawl out of the darkness if she blinked too long. She didn't speak again for 2 days. No visitors, no family. Just questions, endless, unanswerable questions. Where had she been? Who was she with? What happened in the woods? Who did the blood belong to? On the third morning, Claire returned. She wasn't assigned to the case anymore. FBI had taken over, but something about Sadie gnawed at her. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. Maybe it was that strange finality in Ruth Whitlock's voice. Maybe it was the dream Claire had last night. Sadie, standing in the woods, whispering something in a voice not her own. Claire brought her tea, sat beside the bed. "You remember anything yet?" Sadie stared at the floor. Then her lips moved. "I see things." Claire leaned in. "What kind of things?" Sadie's fingers dug into the blanket. Her voice was hoarse. "Rooms. Cold rooms. No windows. A red door. And someone watching." Claire paused, heart tightening. Was this recently? Or a memory? Sadie shook her head. I don't know. It's like my thoughts don't belong to me. Claire gently reached out, placing her hand over Sadie's. It's okay. You've been through something traumatic. These visions may be their memories trying to come back. Sadie met her eyes for the first time. No, they're not mine. That night, Dr. Hanley, a trauma psychiatrist brought in by the Bureau, conducted an evaluation. He suspected dissociative amnesia, possibly related to prolonged captivity. It would explain the memory gaps, the fragmented identity, the emotional detachment. But there was one thing he couldn't explain. The drawings. Sadie had been given a sketchpad, something to help with nonverbal recall. She didn't draw herself. She didn't draw the forest. What she drew were floor plans, rooms, hallways, doorways with thick locks. In one drawing, a child's bed sat in the corner of a steel room. In another, rows of metal cabinets and surgical equipment. But the most disturbing sketch was the one Dr. Hanley found half buried beneath the others, a crude but haunting image of a face, gaunt and distorted, with hollow eyes and no mouth. Above it, scrawled in jagged pencil, was one word: Father. Claire returned the next day, but Sadie was no longer in her room. The nurse looked shaken. The Bureau took her this morning, transferred her to a secure psychiatric facility in Redwood Valley. Claire demanded to know why. They said she was becoming unstable. She attacked an orderly last night. Sighed she didn't want to go back to the Red Door. Claire drove to Redwood Valley herself that evening. She demanded access, citing her previous involvement. The orderly at the gate handed her a clipboard and motioned toward a waiting room. She'll see you, he said, but don't be alone with her too long. Claire didn't ask why. She found Sadie sitting in a high-backed chair, staring at the wall. When Claire stepped into the room, Sadie turned slowly, almost mechanically, and said something that froze the blood in her veins. You used to be one of them, didn't you? Claire stood still. What did you say? Sadie's voice dropped to a whisper. You were there. Before. You wore white. Claire stepped forward, hands slightly raised. Sadie, I've never hurt you. I've never even met you before last week. Sadie didn't blink. Not you. Not now. Before. When I was someone else. Her pupils were dilated, black marbles swimming in pale blue. For a moment, Claire thought she might be hallucinating, but the intensity in Sadie's stare was too sharp, too focused. You think I'm crazy, Sadie said flatly, but I remember now. Little pieces. They called me something else. They gave us pills that made us forget, but it's leaking back in. Claire swallowed. What did they call you? Sadie paused, trembling. Eden. Claire felt something shift deep in her stomach. That name, it triggered something. Not a memory. A news story. Years ago. A raid in Nevada. Children rescued from a compound. There had been a girl, Eden, never identified. Vanished before authorities could question. Claire pulled out her phone in the parking lot of the hospital and searched. Nevada Desert Cult Raid, 2017. The article was still up. A doomsday group called the Promise Path. Leader, Gabriel. Rains. Charged with kidnapping, illegal imprisonment, and psychological torture of minors. The compound was underground, hidden behind a church. Authorities found 12 children, but one had gone missing during the chaos. A girl, age 13, no last name, nicknamed Eden. Claire sat frozen in her car, the screen glowing against the windshield. Same age as Sadie. Same year Sadie disappeared. Coincidence. Was impossible. Back in Crescent Ridge, Claire went to the records room. She pulled up the original Sadie Whitlock case. The police photos from the backpack, found on the riverbank. She enlarged them. The blood on the straps had never matched any known DNA profile. They assumed it was Sadie's. Now Claire wasn't so sure. The detective on the case, Ron DeLuca, had since retired. She called him anyway. He sounded groggy at first, then alert the moment she mentioned Sadie. "You're telling me she's alive?" Claire hesitated. "We think so. But something doesn't add up." DeLuca was silent a moment. "Then there's something you need to know about her mother." Claire's breath caught. "Ruth?" DeLuca exhaled, the sound gravelly. "She came in the night before the backpack was found. Said she had a feeling Sadie was gone. She was calm. Too calm. Kept asking when they'd let her return to the river. I thought she was grieving. But now—" He trailed off. Claire's hands tightened around the phone. "What if Sadie isn't who we think she is?" She whispered. "What if the girl who went missing wasn't just a kidnapping victim? What if she was being hidden?" That night, Claire drove back to the woods. To the exact spot where Sadie emerged. She brought a flashlight, walked past the yellow tape, deeper into the trees. And then she saw it. A small metal hatch in the ground, half covered by leaves. The paint on it had faded with time, but one word was still legible, scratched into the rusted steel in trembling. Lines colon Eden. The hatch creaked open like something exhaling after a long, suffocating silence. Claire's flashlight beam sliced through the black, revealing a narrow metal ladder descending into concrete and shadow. Her breath fogged in the air. It was colder below. She hesitated at the threshold, every instinct screaming to call for backup, but something deeper, something more primal, urged her forward. A voice in her gut that whispered, "If you leave now, you'll never know what happened to her." She climbed. Down. The air was wet, metallic, reeking of mold, rust, and something faintly chemical like an old hospital long since abandoned. Her boots hit the floor with a hollow thud. The tunnel stretched ahead, reinforced steel walls narrowing the further she walked. Then came the rooms, windowless, silent, each with a number etched. Above the door, Room 3, Observation. Room 5, Correction. Room 7, Reintegration. She tried each one. All locked. But Room 4's door was ajar. Inside was a cot, a small sink, and a black and white photo taped to the wall. A child's face, smiling, teeth missing. The same eyes as Sadie, only brighter. Untouched, Claire's hand trembled as she lifted the photo. On the back, written in red ink, Eden, age 8, pure subject. High compliance. There were files in a locked cabinet. She pried it open with her baton. Inside were intake reports, dosages, behavioral logs. Most names were crossed out except 1. Subject 4A Eden. Notes referenced guided memory restructuring, linguistic regression, and something called T or blackout therapy. But the most chilling entry was dated March 14, 2021. Subject 4A became unstable during red door sequence, exhibiting signs of memory bleed. Termination requested by mother. Claire staggered backward, heart pounding. Mother. Ruth. Not biologically, but someone they obeyed, someone who gave orders. She exited the room, scanning the corridor. At the far end was a red door. The paint had chipped. Scratched claw marks ran along its base. Claire reached for the knob. It was cold, too cold. And when she opened it, the stench of bleach and iron hit her like a wave. The room was empty. Mostly, chains hung from the ceiling. A mattress, stained dark, lay in the corner, and in the center, a camera, mounted on a tripod, pointed at the mattress. Still recording. Claire approached it, fingers shaking as she rewound the footage. Was no time stamp, just static. Then a flicker. A girl, about 13, strapped to the bed, eyes wild, screaming without sound. Then someone stepped into frame. A woman, hair pinned back, white coat, Hands gloved, Claire froze. She knew that face dotted was Ruth Whitlock, only younger. Behind her, the door creaked open again. Claire spun. Drawing her weapon, no one was there. But from deep inside the corridor, she heard it, a soft voice, singing. A lullaby, low, distorted, the same song Sadie had hummed in her sleep. Claire turned back to the camera. The screen was black, but written across it, in flickering white letters, was a single word. Run? Claire didn't run, not immediately. Her body wanted to heart thundering, adrenaline flooding her veins, but her mind clung to the evidence. The camera, the files, the sick, rotting truth buried in that bunker. She grabbed everything she could, photographs, reports, video cards, then climbed back up the ladder, the whisper of that lullaby still echoing behind her. By the time she reached her car, her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't fit the key into the ignition. She drove back to the station in a daze, eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds, convinced someone or something was following her. Back at her desk, Claire locked the door and inserted the video card into her laptop. The file opened without prompt. This time, there was audio. The girl strapped to the bed was crying, pleading, but her words were slurred. Heavy from SEDATIVES. Ruth Whitlock stepped into view. Her voice was calm, gentle, maternal. Eden, sweetheart, you have to let go of what came before. That world is gone. We're giving you something better. The girl thrashed. Please, I want to go home. You are home, Ruth said, brushing the girl's hair back. We're going to erase the pain, just like we did with the others. You'll wake up new, perfect, obedient. Then someone else entered the frame. A man, tall, wearing a surgical mask. He held a syringe. Ruth looked into the camera and smiled. Begin phase 3. Claire slammed the laptop shut, bile rising in her throat. This wasn't just kidnapping. It wasn't even cult activity. It was systemic, clinical reprogramming. A human experiment designed to rewrite identity. She called the FBI contact assigned to the Sadie case agent Wolf and demanded an emergency meeting. He didn't answer, so she drove straight to the Bureau field office in Eureka. But when she arrived, Wolf wasn't there. The receptionist checked the logs twice. There's no Agent Wolf assigned here, she said. We've never had one by that name. Claire froze. He'd given her a card. He'd spoken to her. He'd interviewed Sadie. She reached for her wallet to show the card, only it wasn't there. Panic bloomed in her chest. She called the hospital in Redwood Valley, where Sadie was being held. Disconnected. She called 3 more times. Nothing. Then, finally, a different voice picked up. Facility 9. Clearance? Claire hesitated. I'm with law enforcement. I'm trying to reach a patient, Sadie Whitlock. Silence. Then a soft click. The line went dead. Claire didn't sleep that night. She reviewed the files she stole from the bunker, cross-referencing dates, names, locations. One name kept appearing over and over. Dr. Miriam Raines, founder of the Promise Path. And wife to Gabriel Raines, the cult leader who died in prison in 2018. Only Miriam had vanished before the raid. Never captured. Never charged. Claire dug deeper. An old interview surfaced, recorded years ago during a custody dispute. Miriam spoke about the cleansing of memory and the sacred duty of mothers to reshape their children. The footage ended with her looking directly into the camera. We are not destroying these children, she said, eyes alight. We are saving them from themselves, from the world, from the memories that poison them. Claire sat in the dark, phone pressed to her ear, hands numb. She wasn't trying to solve a missing persons case. She was unraveling a resurrection. And somewhere out there, The girl who might have once been Sadie or Eden was trapped in a place that no longer officially existed. And if Claire didn't find her soon, they were going to erase her all over again. Claire drove through the night, following half-maps and whispers, her GPS flickering like it couldn't make up its mind. Somewhere outside Humboldt County, the road dissolved. Into gravel, then into dirt. There were no signs. No cell signal, but she kept going. The files she'd stolen referenced something called Sanctum 9, a privately owned medical rehabilitation center, shut down in the early 2000s after a lawsuit over experimental trauma treatment. No public record connected it to the Raines family, but 2 former board members had also donated to the Promised Path. Claire believed Sadie Eden was their dot, or what was left of her dot. The facility emerged at dawn like a scar in the hills. A low, brutalist structure wrapped in barbed fencing and silence. The guard shack was empty. Cameras pointed inward. She parked behind a dead oak tree and approached on foot, her weapon drawn. Inside, the hallways were clean. Too clean. Smelled of antiseptic and lemon, but beneath it something rotten. The buzz of fluorescent lights made her ears ring. She followed the signs. E-Ward. As she passed closed doors, she could hear things. Muffled weeping. Laughter soft, childlike, repeating the same sentence over and over. I remember the river. I remember the river. I remember. Then she saw it. Subject 4A, cleansing cycle in progress. Claire broke the glass, triggered the alarm. She didn't care. Inside, the room was dark, except for a pale blue light overhead. Sadie lay on a padded table, electrodes attached to her temples. She wasn't strapped down. She didn't need to be dot. She was gone. Eyes open, staring at the ceiling, lips moving silently. Sadie. Claire rushed to her, ripping out the wires. The girl flinched. Blinked dot for a second. Her pupils swam back into focus. Claire, it's me. I'm getting you out of here. But then a voice came over the speaker system, cold and measured. She isn't ready. Claire turned, gun raised. Who's there? A door opened behind her, and a woman stepped in, white coat, pale blouse, gray hair pinned tightly. Dr. Miriam Raines. She looked at Claire the way a mother looks at a petulant child. You shouldn't be here. Claire's voice shook with rage. You erased them. You turned children into blank slates. I freed them, Miriam said calmly. They were drowning in trauma. We gave them new lives, clean slates. Who are you to take that from them? You're a psychopath. Miriam didn't flinch. Memory is poison. Pain corrodes the soul. We saved her. We gave her a name, a purpose. She was Eden, then she was Sadie. And now she walked toward the girl, smiling gently. She can be anyone we want. Sadie's body jerked suddenly. She began whispering, I see you. I see you. Red door, red door, red. Claire fired. The bullet struck just above Miriam's shoulder, shattering a monitor. Sparks flew. Miriam didn't even blink. You can kill me, she said, but it won't matter. There are others, dozens, hundreds. You're too late. Claire pulled Sadie to her feet. Come on, we're leaving. Sadie staggered. Her legs barely worked. But she moved, down the hallway, through the sirens, past the others' children and teens, some whispering, some staring at walls, all caught in some invisible net of shattered identities. They escaped into the morning light, the cold air stinging Claire's lungs. Behind them, the facility began to shut itself down. Doors locking. Lights going dark. A machine swallowing its own secrets. In the car. Claire held Sadie's hand as she drifted in and out of consciousness. And just before she blacked out, Sadie said one last thing, something that chilled Claire to her core. She showed me what I did. Before I was eaten. Claire turned to her. What did you do? Sadie's lips trembled. I think I killed the real Sadie. Rain battered the windshield as Claire raced toward Crescent Ridge Memorial Hospital. Sadie, if that was still her name, was burning with fever, caught in a spiral of memories that weren't hers, or maybe were stitched together from something far worse. In the they sedated her. Claire paced the hallway like a ghost, the weight of everything pressing down Miriam. The red door, the camera footage, the children in the underground rooms. She'd handed it all over to Internal Affairs and state investigators. They said they'd look into it. But the system moves like mud when monsters wear lab coats. When Claire returned to Sadie's bedside later that night, she found the girl sitting up, pale, wide-eyed, a notebook open in her lap. She had been drawing again. Claire sat gently beside her. I thought you were asleep. Sadie didn't look at her. Her pencil scraped slowly across the paper. I remembered the river. Claire's throat tightened. You want to tell me? Sadie nodded, just once. Then she spoke quietly, carefully, like each word had to be pulled through thorns. I was her. I was Sadie, before Eden, before all of it. Claire sat still, not daring to. Breathe, my mom. Ruth, she wasn't in the cult. She found out about it. I think she was part of something else. A program. Government, maybe. I don't know. But when I started remembering things like voices in my head that didn't match mine, she took me out there, to the woods, said she had to fix it. Sadie looked up at Claire now. She wasn't trying to save me. She was trying to erase me before I remembered what they'd done. Tears welled in her eyes. I fought her. On the bridge. I don't remember grabbing the rock, but I must have. I hit her. She fell. Claire felt the blood drain from her face. They found her backpack, but no body. She didn't die, Sadie whispered. She got up. I saw her crawling toward the trees. She looked down at the drawing again. Claire leaned closer and froze. It wasn't a face. It was two twins. Claire blinked. Sadie, who is this? They called her Subject 4B, she whispered. The backup. Claire's mind raced. You're saying there were two of you? Sadie nodded. I think she's still out there. Claire staggered back. She remembered Ruth's words now, when she first saw Sadie through the glass. That's not my daughter. She hadn't been denying biology. She'd been warning them. Sadie clutched Claire's hand now. There's more. I don't know where, but I feel her, in my head sometimes. Like she's trying to talk to me. Claire stared at the two faces drawn in the notebook, one crying, one smiling. We have to find her, she whispered. Sadie shook her head. No. She find us? That night, as Claire tried to sleep in her motel, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I remember everything. So does she. Attached was a photo. It showed the same girl Claire had just left in the hospital, standing on the edge of a different riverbank. Smiling. Blood on her hands. Timestamp. 1 hour ago.